Hello and welcome back to this week. We are still doing topic videos. This week, as you can see, we're going to do pop-up kicks. Now, we took last week off to not do any videos. I'm going to try and do 2 this week. We'll see how it goes. We are going to start with pop-up kicks. If you remember, pop-up kicks was a rule change about 2017 or 2018. We did really good for them for a little while. They kind of went away. This year, they kind of come back. I don't know if we kind of forgot they exist or coaches forgot they existed or what, but they have started to come back the past few weeks. So we want to go over pop-up kicks and again kind of refresh our memories and kind of take a closer look at them. So you can see this is the rule, and this is the only rule guidance we were given on pop-up kick. It's in 224.10. Simply says pop-up kick is a free kick in which the kicker drives the ball immediately into the ground. The ball strikes the ground once and goes into the air in the manner of a ball kicked directly off the tee. This is we kill it immediately. It's a 5-yard penalty and a re-kick. If you played football or you're just familiar with it, you know that originally when pop-up kicks came about, it's almost like an onside kick attempt. Kicker would drive the ball directly into the ground. It would go straight up in the air. You would have a member of the receiving team kind of camped out underneath, waiting for the ball to come down, and that player would get hit. And that was kind of a dangerous play, so the rules committee decided to ban that type of kick from the game. The problem that arises, as you can see, is that there's no clear definition of what a pop-up kick is. You have to use judgment to determine what is the manner of a ball kicked directly off the tee. Because the one sentence I give you, that's all we were given. So we have to kind of use some judgment, kind of maybe some critical thinking, and to determine what exactly a pop-up kick would be. So just some pointers to kind of guide us in that direction. As I said, judgment must be used. There's no real clear guidance from the rule book. But as a rule of thumb, if the kick goes above the head height, it's deemed too high, and this should be considered a pop-up kick. I know that seems low. Head height, you're thinking maybe 6 feet in the air. That does seem kind of low, but we have to have some kind of benchmark. We have to give you something for you to kind of hang out. We can't just say 10 feet in the air because your perspective of 10 feet in the air may be different than my perspective of 10 feet in the air. It'd be hard to just give like an actual height like that. So we have to kind of use, give or take, head height. Now, thinking about it though, if you think about a true pop-up kick, if it's driven directly into the ground and it goes 6 feet in the air, chances are that's going to be a dangerous play for a receiver in position to do it. Obviously, the higher it goes in the air, the further it's going to go, which gives us obviously more latitude in which to throw it. The depth of the kick is not a factor. It does not say head height, but then if it goes 15 yards, then it's not a pop-up kick. Depth is not a factor. It's simply ball driven straight into the ground, bounces once, goes above head height. It is a pop-up kick. Now the key there too is that it has to be just bounce once, driven into the ground, just that one bounce off that initial drive into the ground. Ball goes straight into the air. If it dribbles. So if you think about how we used to try to do onside kicks, you drive into ground, you got one bit bounce, 2 bounce, that 3rd bounce used to jump up in the air. That's usually what we try to go for. That kick is still legal. If it bounces up in the air in the 2nd kick, it is still legal. It is that first bounce, drive directly into the ground, and then that first bounce that goes above head height, we have a pop-up kick. This is primarily a call on the deeps and the umpire. All 3 or 4, we're in a crew of 7, all 4 of you should be ready to rule on this. Typically, your U and your B are going to be looking for encroachment. So a lot of times this will fall on the deeps. But even U and B, if you're looking for encroachment, you can still see this. You can still call it. Especially if you see it clearly, then you call it. But definitely want our deeps looking out for this. Alright, so let's look at some pop-up kicks. This is one from a few years ago. As you can see, this kick is not going to be very high at all, but it's still going to still going to accomplish what a pop-up kick would accomplish. And it is putting a player in harm's way. You can see this kick does not go very much above head height at all, but it still puts the player in a position. But even just by bouncing like that right there, about 9 yards wide, it puts this player right here in a very bad position to get injured. Same as if he were standing there waiting on the ball to come down. So that is why even head height is probably a good benchmark for what we would consider a pop-up kick. Again, because he still gets hit pretty hard. He's okay, but it does put him in a bad situation because he is defenseless. He is going for the ball. And one player, and this is what pop-up kicks are designed to be, this one player in the kicking team, his sole target is the player in position to field it, and his job is to try to break up this ball. That's what he's trying to do, because they can't touch the ball until it goes 10 yards and hits the ground. They get the ground hit by the initial drive, so all they need for it to go 10 yards, and that's kind of what this is doing. They can't touch it, but they can touch that player once it's 10 yards. So this is what they're trying to do. And it does work. In this instance, I think the kicking team gets the ball back. So it does work. And it, like I said, it is not, it's not a very good, it's just a dangerous play. Same thing here. Not particularly high. And this one is a little more vanilla. It does not, there's no real danger in this one immediately. And it's pretty straight to the player. But it is a pop-up kick. It is an illegal kick and should be flagged. Another thing too is we really have to make sure on these that the kicking team is not offsides. A lot of times they're anxious to get downfield to do what they need to do, so sometimes they can be offsides on these particular plays. Zoom in on this one. So this is when we talked about depth. Depth is not a factor. Because see, this one's gonna go over 15 yards. So it's easy for us to think, oh well, it's over that front line of K, so it can't be a pop-up kick. But that's not true. This still falls in the line of a pop-up kick. You see it straight into the ground. That is above head height. And it still puts these players in a precarious position to get injured. And again, this one is going to get the desired result at once, and that K gets the ball. And they get the ball in pretty good field position. But you do have players who are kind of put in harm's way unnecessarily, and this should be flagged as a pop-up kick. Same game, different kick. And this one really, actually, let me get to the Y, because then you can really see the depth. This one goes 20 yards, so it's easy to kind of, brush this off and say, oh, we went too far downfield, so it can't be a pop-up kick. But that's not the rule. Remember, the rule is just driven immediately into the ground, and then in the manner in which if it were kicked off a tee. So depth is not an issue. We're just looking for, does it go immediately into the ground, and does it go head height, which this one does. You see it driven to the ground there. And his apex is well above head height. And it still puts this player, in a defenseless position. So we would want this also called as a pop-up kick. Again, it's different. I mean, it's difficult to call these. Again, let's go back to what we said, what the rule is. Free kick Kicker drives immediately into the ground. Ball strikes the ground once, goes in the air like it's kicked off a tee. So that's all we're looking for. Depth's not an issue. We're looking for that head height is kind of what we have defined as what would pop-up kick be. So that's it for this week. Thank you for watching. If you have comments, please comment. If you like this video, please like it as well. Remember to subscribe. And hopefully we'll see you again in a couple of days with another topic video as well.